Thank you for visiting ChristopherMedia.net.
Bruce, you guys throw a heck of a big game party. How did you do it?
You know, Jeff, the credit really has to go to my gourmet sense of taste. My buddies, of course, who strangely always seem to have time for a party, and BJ's.com.
You're thanking BJ's.
Well, my friend, everything you see here from food to serving to desserts came today from BJ's with free same-day delivery.
If they deliver it free, why did you charge us?
We call that a finder's fee, Jeff.
Spend $100 or more and get free same-day delivery at BJ's.com. February 6th to the 12th only. BJ's. Absurdly simple savings.
Is your new year still falling flat? You are not alone. This year, millions will be diagnosed with low energy. But Planet Fitness has the cure. Boost your energy with tons of equipment in our clean and spacious clubs for $1 down and $10 a month. No commitment. Cancel anytime. Deal ends February 16th. See Home Club for details. Is your new year still falling flat? Do you avoid stairs with multiple steps? You are not alone. This year, millions will be diagnosed with low energy or low E. But there's a cure. Now through February 16th, join Planet Fitness for just $1 down, $10 a month, no commitment. With clean, spacious clubs and tons of equipment, you can boost your energy after just one workout. Leave low E behind and find your big fitness energy at Planet Fitness. Join in the free PF app for $1 down, $10 a month, cancel anytime. Deal ends Thursday, February 16th. See Home Club for details.
Christopher Media, let's make some noise. Welcome to Beer Nuts, a weekly excursion into the world of craft beer, brought to you by MichiganBeerGuide.com. And now, here are the Beer Nuts.
Hey everybody, welcome to Beer Nuts, episode 194. It's been a complete year since our last episode, but we're going to get back into the swing of things and try to get this thing to 200 episodes. So this is episode 194, and the reason we wanted to do it is we've always done a Superb Owl episode, and this will be Superb Owl 57, or LVII in Roman numerals. The big game this weekend, and of course, it's a shameless plug for Ross and I. Our Philadelphia Eagles are in the game. Last year, I think it was the Steve V's Los Angeles Rams. Sorry about those Bears, Doug, but at least you got the first pick. So we do have 4 beer nuts here for tonight's episode. So I'll introduce from East Coast to West, Ross Smith from North Carolina. Welcome back, Ross.
Hey, nice to be back.
And then in Clawson, Michigan, Dugout.
Good to be back.
And all the way to the left coast to Steve V in Los Angeles, California. Welcome back, Steve.
It's good to be back. It's a long year to go without beer.
Yeah, so it's been 1 year from our last episode, so I'm sure everybody's probably given up on us, but we still love beer. We just don't have as much free time as we once did. But we still enjoy great beers, and we actually did do one episode around the holidays, and it never got published because we probably just drank too much. And but it was fun to get the band back together. So we're going to rededicate ourselves. Probably try to do one a month by the end of this year to get to the grand 200th episode, which we are going to dedicate to one of our all-time favorite breweries, Coonan Brewing in Michigan. In Warren, Michigan. And where's the second location, Dugout?
Clinton Township.
That's right. So anyway, it's been a while since we've done this, but we have always said we're not pretentious beer snobs. We just want to introduce more good beer to more good people. So we're going to go around and try to get back to our old tradition of announcing our last Untapped check-in. We were talking a little bit before the show, and a lot of us had several beers since our last check-in. Maybe it's not so. Sometimes you just want to have a good time and not worry about pulling with the phone and checking things in. But I'm going to start with mine. It was a beer called Thrills. It's a dragon fruit, pineapple, guava, and orange from the Dewey Beer Company. And I had that beer at Island Pizza in Douglasville, Pennsylvania, on a recent visit for the NFC Championship game. Ross and I had several good beers, most of what he brought from North Carolina, but they weren't checked in, but we can talk about them a little later. So we'll go take it over to Ross, and he can tell us about his last Untapped check-in.
Yeah, my last check-in was from a brewery. I'm not sure we've ever heard of it before, Tombstone Brewing in Arizona. I had the
shameless plug.
Black Mariah Russian Imperial Stout was really good. So that took a trip out to visit JR earlier this year to see the Eagles play in Arizona for the first time this year, back in October. Yeah, I remember all their stouts were really awesome, and I still have some goodies from that trip in my fridge. So.
Well, and we had the Grand Crew at the tailgate for the the NFC Championship game. We'll pass it over to Dugout.
Okay. This is Dugout, Clawson, Michigan. My last Untapped check-in was a Bourbon County brand. Let's see if there it is. Bourbon County brand coffee stout from 2022. And I mentioned that it was definitely solid, but somewhat thin in body for the price, and that the coffee and bourbon strike a good balance. It actually was pretty tasty. It's just that when you pay what you pay for those beers, you expect a little more body to them. And, it seems to me they're getting closer towards the Dragon's Milk formula of really thin bourbon barrel-aged stout, and I think that cuts cost. And,
Well, you would be one to know, having had experience at the original Goose Island.
Yeah, and we could bring that up a little bit because I called bullshit on this year's 30th anniversary because it wasn't released 30 years ago. There's no way. I mean, I didn't work there in 92. I had not worked there yet, and it was released while I was working there. So, yeah, bullshit.
Big news. All righty then, let's go out to California. Steve V.
Mute.
You're on mute.
Oh, here we go. That helps a lot. I was telling the guys before we went on that I've been on this competition, and so I haven't been drinking beer. And but my last check-in was at my Frogtown Brewery, where I'm a society member. And so when I went to pick up my my new membership renewal and all my swag, and of course that included a free beer. So I'm like, well, yeah, I want to drink beer then. So I had their double IPA. It's a Zeppelin Fortress. It was really good, as it's described, malty, balanced, hoppy. It was really tasty, and it's been satisfying me until this one we're going to have right now. So let's go.
Well, so just to clarify, Steve E. didn't mention the competition he's in is, I think he's in a contest with some other people to see how much weight they can lose. So hats off to you for that, but glad you get to take at least a small respite tonight and enjoy one or two with us. So let's just start with Ross and tell us about the beer you're going to enjoy, and feel free to interject any Eagles references.
Well, I have an Eagles reference because of the beer. So for anybody that knows me, this will be a departure from some things that I normally do. I've gotten into, because of a brewery in Philadelphia, I've starting to broaden my horizons a little bit. They do a lot of Czech lagers, and the reason that really got me into it was this Tamavi 13. If anybody can see the can, the Tamavi 13 degree dark Czech lager they made. I had it a sample of it several months ago when the local beer study people went up, and they brought back a sixtel of it to put on draft at the store. And I just fell in love with it. And so every time I visit Philly for a game this year after that incident, I've been stopping in at Human Robot. JR knows I tried my best to get him to go there a week and a half ago when we were there for the NFC Championship game. But I always visit the place. They've got good food there. They have a sandwich shop right in the store called Pose, and they're killing it on these lagers, pilsners. They've got a couple IPAs. They do stouts a couple times a year, but mostly they're doing these Czech lagers. And I've just fallen in love with them. And so not doing a stout tonight. And whoops, pour. So we can see that nice dark kind of soda color. I've been really enjoying the heads I get on these as compared to a lot of the heavier stouts I've had. You get that nice couple fingers worth of head there, and it's nice tan, thick, hanging around. And that smell is just so good. It's just roasty. There's like a little bit of wood in there. It's got a little maltiness, a little breadiness. Just really, really, really good aromas. And then the taste. So it's light. It's smooth. Obviously the carbonation's there. It's pretty gentle. It's got a little crisp. It's almost creaminess as well. I know that's a little different, but for me, this is a different mouthfeel than I normally have on beers. I've just been trying to get used to the way these things come across. It's got all the same attributes in the taste that you had in the smell. A little breadiness, a little earthiness, a little bit of nuttiness. It's just light and crisp, and it's just a style I've really come to enjoy now. That breadiness is really there. I just really enjoy this. And I'm not an expert on the dark lager style, but everything comes across in the taste that's in the smell, and it's just a wonderful beer.
Yeah, that's a great beer style. There's a brewery here in Arizona, pretty popular, called Run House, that just did one. I really did want to go to the brewery, Russ, but it was all the way on the other side of Center City, and with all the debauchery taking place, the celebrating. I got as far as Broad Street, and it was closed, and our good friend Michael Palestino, who owns a deli in South Philly, I ended up meeting him at this local neighborhood pub and with all the locals, so it was good to be celebrating with our tribe in South Philly. But that brewery is definitely, next time I go to Philly, I'll make it there. I've had Michael's actually mailed me beer from that brewery several times, and they're great.
So they have a light lager called Czech 10, which is kind of their main. That's maybe the one they're mostly known for. They make a lot more of that than the other stuff. They didn't have that 2 of my trips, but the second of those 2 trips, which was the trip prior to the NFC Championship game, they were still waiting for it to clear up a little bit, but they were serving it right out of the barrel. And that was, I guess it was a Keller, I guess they call it Keller 10 degree at that point. It was really good. That was the first time I'd had a lager like that. And that was really good as well.
So glad to see that that you branched out into some other beer styles. I know you used to just like the dark stuff, and if we had like a hoppy episode, you'd usually pass. And
well, I can have a lot more of these than I can 13% stouts. Right?
For sure.
This stuff's all less than 6%, so I think this is like 5.8 or something. And so this doesn't kill me quite as quick as the other stuff. So.
You know, and,
I plan to be going heavy all Super Bowl long this time. I'll last a bit longer with these than I will with my heavy stouts. So I plan to at least mix these in. And also the Human Robot, they also do like Philadelphia sports themed like combo stuff with their beers. So, for instance, I'm wearing underneath my Eagles jersey. I don't know if you can see this, but it's got the Eagles font, and it's got the Czech 10 beer with a name on it. And on the back is like a number, and it's 10 degrees, so it looks kind of like a jersey a little bit on the back. And so they're really ingrained into the Philadelphia community. They've got 2 spots there in Philly too. They've got one that's kind of on the outskirts, and then one that's on North 5th. But I've been loving their beer, and it's kind of really opened my perspective on styles that I need to pay attention to. So
yeah, that's awesome. And I have to say that since I started with working in the craft beer business and with Tombstone, I also have come to appreciate some of the more sessionable styles, because I quickly learned that most of the people in the business, especially brewers, they cherish lagers and pilsners, because when they're in the brew house all day, you can have a beer here and there and still be able to do your job. And so I've also branched out a little bit into the sours. I used to find some of the sours repulsive, and now I've grown to really like them over years of sampling them and kind of tolerating them for a while. Now I'm actually appreciating them, and beers that I normally would have ran away from, now I am like excited to have. So it's good to see, everybody has kind of an evolution of their, beer styles they enjoy. And the more you try, the more you expand. So for those of you out there listening that maybe you have a favorite and, I don't like hoppy beers or I don't like dark beers, keep trying them all and you'll eventually come to appreciate more and more of them. Well, great beer to kick it off with. Nice dark Czech Pilsner.
So those Czech beers, typically have a number like that, and that comes from the country itself. And they'll be numbered to the Lovabond level in the beer. So that 13 is going to be a lot darker than a 10. 10 or 11 is your typical imported Czech Pilsner. So like Budvar or Pilsner Cal, those are going to be in that 10 to 11 range.
He's holding up one that has a 12 Lovabond on it. Is it a 12 or a 17? Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry, yeah, this is Sedlec 12. And yeah, so it's a 12.
So I've been brewing some Czech Pilsner. I've got one that's going to the National Homebrew Competition. I just got it bottled up last night, and actually it's drinking fantastic.
I guess some congrats are in order for you too, right? I saw your post.
Oh, yeah. We'll get into that in a little bit here.
Sure. Well, Doug, we might as well move to you. We're going east to west. You're up.
All right. Well, it's a shame Greg's not here because I wouldn't have this if he hadn't gone and gotten it. This is a Transient. Flavortron is the name. I didn't have anything from Philly or from KC, so I just went with what I had, and I figured this was a pretty good one, and this is a good one. It's barrel aged, and let's give you the listing here because this is like there's a lot of stuff in here, man, and they write it sideways, so in small writing. So you got to be careful. Blended oatmeal rye imperial stout with vanilla beans, maple syrup, tugboat coffee, cacao nibs, caramel, cinnamon, marshmallow, toasted coconut, graham crackers, peanuts, and lactose, aged in Bliss maple bourbon and Weller whiskey barrels for 24 months. Yeah, it's extreme, man. I mean, it pours. And you guys heard me mention about body in premium beers, and especially in barrel aged premium beers that you're charging a lot of money for. This does not disappoint in the bottle. No, there is a little bit of floaty action on the top. Maybe it's pieces of marshmallow or something, that's fine by me. You can't really see through this. It's got a lot of flavor, and you can pretty much taste everything. Maybe that's peanut dust on the top. I don't know. You can really get the barrel out of it. It's not harsh. Everything really blends well together. I wouldn't want more than one of these. It's pretty much on the sweeter side of beers. And I think what was the ABV on this was 14.5%. But I got to tell you, man, Transit, and I've mentioned them before. I've had quite a few beers of theirs on the show, and lately with their barrel program, they've been killing it, absolutely killing it, and just one after the other. And like I said, I wish Greg was on here. He had ordered a few, and I ordered a few online, and they let you proxy and pick them up. So they make it really easy for you to do it. I would have been able to get them, but they don't open on Monday and Tuesday, and they don't open till 4 o'clock on Wednesday. And I was over in that area, but by 4 o'clock on Wednesday, I was long gone. I was a couple hours away. So, but it worked out that he was able to pick them up, and then I gave him a couple of beers for the effort. And but yeah, if you guys ever have an opportunity to grab something like this in a trade, I'd definitely do it. This is some killer stuff.
Man, that sounds fantastic. But what is that, like 10 adjunct ingredients?
It's a lot. It's really a lot. And then, like I said, it's like little brownish floaty things on the top. And that's what I was trying to figure. Is that graham cracker dust, or is that peanut dust, or is it just pieces of charred wood barrel, or
Well, Doug, which of those adjuncts stands out, like flavor-wise? Which ones can you...
The coconut really cuts through, as does the maple, and that maple brings a sweetness to it. The chocolate's huge in it.
Well, it sounds pretty good. I've never had a bad beer from Transient. Certainly their barrel-aged stuff's all really good.
And a peanuts...
That's a little overboard with that many adjuncts, but I'm sure...
Yeah, I think they probably could have skipped the peanuts at this point. There's no real benefit to them. Maybe a little bit of saltiness, which actually does this well. I mean, that little hint of salt really makes the flavor stand out.
Well, no secret that I would not want the peanut in there.
I was saying that makes it sounds delicious. The peanut and the coconut, and
it does. It really is. It's really tasty. But it's big, and like I said, I probably wouldn't want more than one. And this is probably stretching it, just drinking that 16.5 ounce that pint bomber, and that'll do well. Like I've got one other beer, so one other 12 ounce or two there, and that'll do me for the night.
All right. Well, that's a great getting a little bit stronger here. I'm gonna go next with my selection, and I do have a Pennsylvania-based beer, and there's a little bit of an Eagles story to it. I had sold all my tickets for the year, and I had the last game of the season left. I'd already broken even for the season, and my good friend Michael Palestino, who lives in South Philly, I reached out to him and said, would you like the tickets to the last game of the year against the Giants? That was maybe about a month before the end of the season. Little did we know we would need that to clinch. So it actually became a meaningful game. But so he said, yeah, he'd love to go. And my other friend that works with him at My Pal's Deli in South Philly, Eddie Reich. So him and Eddie worked together at the deli, and they decided, yeah, well, we'd love to go to the game. So I said, well, instead of paying me for the tickets, I've already paid for the season already. Just send me some good beers from the Philadelphia area, which, of course, he was happy to oblige. So I thought he'd just send me a couple 4-packs of cans. Anything local was fine. I wasn't looking for anything. Lo and behold, I get this box in the mail, and it had, I think, like 8 or 9 different variants of this beer called Alpheus from Free Will Brewing. They have 2 locations in the Philadelphia area. One is in Lahaska near New Hope, north of the city. One's a little bit further west in Percy, Pennsylvania. But I had never heard of this brewery, but after talking to Michael, after I thanked him for the box, each one of these Ralpheus variants, they're all barrel-aged, and they've got a picture. I'll hold it up for you guys. I'll post it on Instagram or for our viewers to see, but it's got a picture of a dog on there, and all the labels are different colors, but they all have Ralpheus as the dog. I'm not sure the story about whether the dog is on the label, but this is the 2022 release of Ralpheus. They had the bottles he sent me. I think there's about 10 different variants of barrel age. He sent me 8 or 9, so I got almost one of everything. This particular one that I opened for tonight is called Ralpheus 2-year cognac barrel. So I believe it spent an extra year in the cognac barrels. I think they did one was a 1 year, and then they kept this. So this is pretty. These are really, really unbelievable beers. I'm down to my last 2 out of those. That's how good they are. I've been drinking them. I really don't drink a lot of the darker, heavy stouts lately. I've morphed into more of sours and lighter beers, but these are real treats. So this particular 2-year cognac barrel, Imperial Stout aged for 2 years in a cognac barrel, 13.5% ABV, and it's microscopically small and difficult for me to read, but I'm going to do my best. This variant showcases a unique puncheon aged for an additional year featuring notes of raisin, peppery oak, and boysenberry jam. So I've had a few sips of this already. I'm going to pour a little bit more in. I'll stress that when you first pour it, there's a very thin cola-looking head that dissipates within 10 seconds or so. Very light on the carbonation, but enough effervescence there, to make it a little bit better than flat. but there's enough bubbles there to make it pretty enjoyable. So on the nose, I definitely get the raisin dark fruit, maybe a little bit of that, like it said, boysenberry jam, but I think that dark fruit's more like prunes, raisins, figs. So I'm going to take a sip here and evaluate this. And I think the cognac barrel influence is really good because you get a little bit of booziness. But you also, cognac is distilled from grapes, and that's why that dark fruit really stands out, and it's complex. You get different layers of dark fruits. Again, raisiny, prunes, berries. It's all there. Actually, on the finish, it started more like a raisin, and then it went more like I almost got like almost a blueberry at the end of it. Very nice dark fruit flavors, complexity. You would never call this thin dugout. This is a nice, solid, thick stout. Not too thick, not too thin, just right. And again, when I got these, I thought, oh, it's going to be a long time until I finish all these. And I'm down to like my last two. They're so good. Like once a week, I'm like, yeah, I got to have one of those. So, shout out to Michael. Appreciate it. He really stepped up and sent me a really nice assortment of great beer. He didn't have to do that, but that's how he rolls. If you're ever in South Philadelphia for a game or just in the city for any reason, find My Pals Deli. They just got recognized by Philadelphia Magazine as one of the top sandwich makers in they have cheesesteaks, Italian sandwiches, you name it. It's in the local neighborhood corner deli, but they, it's what Philly's all about. It's the heart of South Philadelphia. Funny story, when we first started exchanging beer, probably at least 10 years ago, his brother had owned the deli. So when I had to ship him beer, he said, send it to McCusker's Tavern. I'm like, what's McCusker's Tavern? He goes, oh, it's the corner tavern right across the street from my house. They're always open, and that way, if they leave it on my step, I guess, you're in the city, you don't want to just leave something out. So it's a safe place for him to get his packages. So for years, I was sending boxes of beer to McCusker's Tavern. And then on one visit, I finally got to visit him, and I got to go to McCusker's. And now I go there frequently on my trips to Philadelphia. So it's a nice local neighborhood pub. And so after the championship game, Russ went up to Human Robot, and it took us a long time to get out of the lot, and by the time we were out, we looked at the map and saw the Human Robots kind of far away, and I texted Michael, and he was 1.1 mile away, so that's where I ended up, as McCusker's Tavern. Had a good time. I had the last Nugget Nectar from Trogs, and then I had to switch to common man's beer. But everything tasted good that night after defeating the 49ers and advancing to the Super Bowl. So we'll leave it at that. So even Steve V was probably happy to see the 49ers lose as a Rams fan.
Yeah, I didn't have a dog in the fight, so
but you can't.
I was just hoping for a good game.
Niners are a rival, though.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's
that would be like Russ and I not wanting the Giants, Redskins, or Cowboys to win.
Yeah, well, they were a couple of them were hanging around there too, so they could have easily been in there too. So a lot of NFC East teams this year.
Well, you know what, Steve? I hope the Eagles win, and the Beer Nuts will be 2 in a row.
Yeah. Like I said, I guess that's one thing I can say is being how our last episode was last Superb Owl we're still the reigning champs until Sunday, in which one of these teams will be crowned. So good luck to your Eagles. I wish them well, and like I said, hopefully it's a good game. That's all. Anyone with no one involved hopes that's.
Well, you're not going to get any trash talking from me. I have utmost respect for Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and company, but I like our chances. But I'm not going to be arrogant. I'm going to just wait for the game and do our talking on the field. So why don't you do the talking and introduce us to your next beer out in L.A.?
All right. So since I didn't have any KC or Philly beer out here, and I looked into my refrigerator and I pulled out nice little West Coast IPA from Long Beach Beer Lab. It's called This Is the Way IPA, and it has a picture of the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda on it. It's a double dry hopped with Galaxy hops in it, and it's 7.2 ABV. So let's open up this thing. It's very light, golden color. Pours the nice head on it. You can see through it pretty good. One thing before I taste, and a little bit about the Long Beach Beer Lab, is it's a great little brewery down in Long Beach, as it's appropriately named. But they also do a great job. They bake their own bread there. And they do some really, really fantastic stuff. And they recently added some pizza and a bunch of stuff to their menu. So when you go down there to their brewery, it's full service. I mean, you're going to eat well, and they have a great selection of beers on their menu. So with this one here, you can smell the hops on that right away. Very dry, very strong on the, like I said, strong on the hop, but not bitter at all. Kind of like a almost like a smoky flavor to it, but not harsh aftertaste on it. Very smooth all the way. What's left on your mouth, it's enjoyable. It's like, yeah, I'm drinking beer, and it's good. Yeah. This would probably be a beer I would probably get into towards the end of the night. Probably something where I've started off with lighter, maybe a lighter IPA before I swung, the next step over up to this one. I wouldn't say this is like a all game drinking beer, but it's very good. It's pronounced. It's like kind of one of these like. Let's get together and drink some beer, and I think everyone would enjoy it. As far as you have the people that don't like the IPAs, but I think the flavor of this, I think it's something that people would enjoy, even though they might not like the buy into all that IPA taste. But I would highly recommend it. Highly recommend if you can get down to Long Beach. If you're on the West Coast side, get down to their Long Beach Beer Lab, and like I said, their stuff's really good. This is just another great beer from them, and I will enjoy the rest of this beer.
Well, you'll have to take me there in our next visit.
Absolutely.
I do have some news for you. I should probably let Chris break this to you, but he's potentially going to be joining the craft beer world, and I can't remember the name of I think is it Topa Topa? Have you heard of that?
Oh yeah, that's a great place.
So Chris may be working for them.
Yeah, they do really good.
Probably should allow him to tell you, but he's pursuing a potential opportunity with them. I'll just leave it at that. So
excellent. Yeah,
glad that you give it a thumbs up, because I told him to call you before he did anything, because you would know it was a good spot. So
he doesn't need to check in with me. He's I'm sure he'll do fine, and he's a great asset no matter where he goes to.
For sure. So Chris has been on the show a few times, and proprietor of the world famous Stumble Inn in Huntington Beach, California, where Steve V and I spent New Year's Day on the day before the Rose Bowl, where the Penn State Nittany Lions were victorious over the Utah Utes, so that was a good one. But we had some great beers that night too, didn't we? And I appreciated Steve took us to an unbelievable breakfast spot in LA. I'll let you. I don't remember the name of the place, but it was highly recommended. You ever go?
It's called Nickel Diner. It's on Main and between 5th and 4th Street, downtown LA. It's been around forever. Great food there. Their breakfast is fantastic. Their dinners and lunches top notch. Just a lot of, it's like really it's kind of great desserts, things like that. I couldn't convince JR to try one of their donuts. They were like
I had the hangover helper breakfast. That was the bomb.
Yeah, omelet with every meat in it and great salsa for it. But they were like one of the originators on the bacon donuts, and they warm them up for you, and they're just kind of yummy.
I was too full to have that, but the hangover helper was perfect. But yeah, if you ever go to LA, guys, look at Steve V up. I mean, I can't even speak highly enough of how gracious of a host you are whenever I come to California. And I can only hope that I can repay you with a visit to either Arizona or Philly or both. And I looked at the schedule this year, and of course, the Rams and the Eagles play in Los Angeles this year. So,
well, there we go.
We'll make it happen. I'll come out, but at some point you got to let me take care of you because you've been very gracious to me, and I do appreciate that. And we also went. What was the liquor store you took me to? We were able to find a few fresh bottles of Pliny the Elder and the what was the Helles lager they make? I got a bottle of that.
Yeah, we went to the place where I was going to get all my beers for when we used to do our podcast regularly, called Ramirez Liquor, over in Boyle Heights area, and yeah, they got a great selection of beers and hard liquors and everything you need to have a entertaining.
I was a kid in the candy store there, although my son Jack was with me, and he was like, "Let's get out of here."
Yeah.
But he had to pull me out of the store. I wanted to say that I could have just spent hours in there. Great store. Yeah, it's great experience to experience Los Angeles. No way better to do it than with Steve V. So
yeah, we got in a Philly Flyers and Kings game that day.
We did. Oh. And the Flyers actually won, which doesn't happen all the time, right, Ross? Although we did win tonight too, so we're not as bad as we were supposed to be, but we're not good enough to. We're just in that like no man's land where we're not great, but we're not good. Anyway, I think everybody's
good enough not to get a good draft pick.
Yeah.
Thank you for visiting ChristopherMedia.net.
Is your new year still falling flat? Do you avoid stairs with multiple steps? You are not alone. This year, millions will be diagnosed with low energy or low E. But there's a cure. Now through February 16th, join Planet Fitness for just $1 down, $10 a month, no commitment. With clean, spacious clubs and tons of equipment, you can boost your energy after just one workout. Leave low E behind and find your big fitness energy at Planet Fitness. Join in the free PF app for $1 down, $10 a month. Cancel anytime. Deal ends Thursday, February 16th. See Home Club for details.
You don't want to miss Don't Miss deals going on now at ShopRite. This week, choose any variety of Bowl and Basket shredded cheese 6 to 8 ounce packages for just $1.99. Use your Price Plus card to get Ortega Taco dinner kits for only $1.49 each. And Eggo Homestyle waffles are now only $1.99 with your Price Plus card. Don't miss ShopRite's Don't Miss deals. In-store and online at ShopRite.com. ShopRite. Check out happy.
At Progressive, we know there's nothing like the feeling of riding a motorcycle with your crew on the open road. That symphony of engines roaring in perfect harmony. It's a feeling that would be impossible to recreate on the radio. Until now. Hit it, Jerry! Oh, my word. Really, really terrible. Is that a glockenspiel, Jerry? Quote with Progressive and see if you could save with America's #1 motorcycle insurer. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. No, Jerry. It's over.
Progressive presents Adjusting to the Suburbs.
I never thought I'd care about gardening until I bought a house in the suburbs. But now I find myself in conversations about liquid fertilizer, and I wonder, am I the fertilizer guy now? No way. Everyone knows the ratio between phosphorus and nitrogen, right? Yeah, I'm still totally cool.
Anyway, when you save with Progressive by bundling your home and auto, that's the easy part of adjusting to the suburbs. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company coverage provided and serviced by affiliates and third-party insurers. And now another no-brainer money-saving tip from Progressive.
It looks like your luggage is over 50 pounds. Is there anything you can take out?
Oh, yeah. Let me just toss all these $20 bills.
Great. Let me grab you a trash can.
Stop. Instead of throwing money away, Move some clothes into a carry-on. And here's a better tip from Progressive on how not to waste money. Don't pay too much for car insurance. Drivers who switch and save could save hundreds. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary.
ChristopherMedia.net.
But great times in Cali, great beers in Cali. So let's see. Who else has another beer? Ross, you got something else for round two? Or
all right. Yeah, I opened the Sedlec 12 and poured it. I've had this before as well as the Commodity 13. So you can see this one's a much lighter color. Had a good head when I started. I would say it's more like grassy and flowery than the dark was. Got a little bit more hop to it. A little bit more hop forward than the other one. Not a whole lot. Not quite bready, just a little bit malty, I guess. It's a little bit more bitter than the other one, and at least to my taste, it's a little lighter.
Which one was that, Ross?
This is the Sedlec 12.
Oh, okay, the 12. Yep.
That was the other one I said earlier that I was thinking of doing. I went ahead and poured it while everybody else was doing their bit. So it's light. It's got just a little bit of, it's light and smooth, right? And it's just a little bit more, I don't know, almost herbal than the other one, right? So again, I'm not real good at describing lagers, so I don't know. I guess this is technically Pilsner, right? But
I'm sure it's fantastic. I really love that style, Czech Pilsner.
It's really, and again, this is another one where to me, I'm so used to like not being able to pound something like this, and I've already finished most of this one that I've like for me, pounding this I'd be half unconscious at this point if these had been stouts, obviously. But yeah, this is another thing where that it's just there's just all these lighter aromas that I don't normally have in the beers that I drink, right? So I'm getting that grassiness that's coming out it's really interesting to me because I normally don't have something that smells like that, right?
I'm assuming there's probably Saz hops in that as a Czech.
I'm guessing.
Man, I mean, out of all the mainstream beers, you come across a fresh bottle of Pilsner Urquell. It's really hard to.
So yes, I'm at their website and it's Saz, right? Yeah. Lightly dry hopped with the finest Saz hops. It says.
So at Tombstone, we brew a beer called Father of the Pils, and it's dedicated to one of the original Czech brewers that brought Czech Pils style to the United States. So
so I'm enjoying this one.
Style, great crushable, enjoyable. It's like you have our Miller Lights and Bud Lights of the world that the American consumer drinks, but when you have one of those, it's just as sessionable as those, only with like 10 times as much flavor. If you get a good one, and that sounds like a great one.
I get so back. Obviously, in my college days before I switched over to more darker, heavier things, I had all the cheap beers, and probably that's what turned me off to, this whole style was having the lighter beers and just it being just something you drank to get drunk, right?
The dreaded fizzy yellow beer,
and so the transition back to these now is it's great to. In some extent, I probably, I missed a lot of years of drinking good beer because I kind of refused to do it, right? JR knows I'm a little, I'd rather not have that, but now I am, so I'm a little bit more willing to branch out, and I've found I really love this stuff, so at least the good ones.
Yeah, I'd like to share a quick story about fizzy yellow beers. When I worked Dugout and I worked for Newcastle together, and I remember we went to one team meeting, like where we all got together, and Matt Anderson, a good buddy of ours, that was my old boss, showed us this visual of here's what most bars have, and it has like 8 tap handles, and like 7 are yellow, and one's like slightly amber. And then he has another one where there's like 3 or 4 yellows, and there's a couple amber, then there's a stout, and then maybe something fruity. Nice more, it's kind of diversity in beer. And I used to actually, I wish apps were around then. I would have developed an app. I used to go to accounts and write down what they had and come back with a picture of it. And I'd say, look what you have. And it'd be like 7 yellow beers and 1 amber beer. And I'd say, here's what you could have. And of course, we sold Newcastle. That was like, you had amber, brown, and stout. So you cover kind of a different flavor profile for all those styles. And it was very effective. I told bar owners, I'm like, look what you're offering your people. 7 of the same thing and then 1 other slightly different, when you could have like 3 of the same thing, because everybody's got to have Bud Light, Miller Lite, Coors Light. Okay. Well, they don't have to, but they choose to. But that's what people are asking for. And then maybe you have 1 like full strength lager. So there's 4 fizzy yellows already. And then the other half of your portfolio should be something a little different. Maybe a Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, maybe a Bass Ale, maybe a Newcastle Brown, which is what I was selling. So yeah, it's nice to have variety for everybody. And again, even with a fizzy yellow beer, there are fizzy yellow beers like the one you're drinking that actually has flavor. I'll leave it at that and pass it over to Dugout.
Can I say one more thing? So while we were back in Philly, about 3.5, 4 blocks away from Human Robot is a place that's killing it on sours called Fermentary Form, which I got to visit back in October. They're so small, and they're only open on Saturdays, noon to 4. It's one of the places where on Saturday everybody shows up and they push whatever brewing equipment out of the way that they can to open up their space a little and have drag some benches in and they start serving beer. And I'm not really a sours guy, but the people who were with me on the trip, on that particular trip, was a Titans game, I think. They really appreciate sours, and they were like, this stuff is really good. And also, Michael had recommended of Me Pal's Deli that JR talked about earlier. He had recommended it to us. We stopped in to see him after we went to Monk's. We stopped in there. I dropped him off some North Carolina beer, and he was like, oh, if you're going to Human Robot, you need to hit this place because it's only open on Saturdays for 4 hours, and you might as well hit it because it's a couple blocks away. And even I enjoyed their beer. That's not really, sours still aren't really my style that I can really appreciate, but my friends who were sour drinkers really said this is really exceptional stuff, which is also what Michael had told us. So I recommend them too. While we're on the topic of Philadelphia breweries, that's one that should be on people's list.
Sounds like we need to have a beer nuts conclave in Philadelphia sometime in the next year. Good stuff there. Of course, Russ, you and I could always maybe meet there for parade. I said I wasn't going to go to the parade, but I might have lied. But we don't have a parade yet, so I'm going to shut that down now. If there's a parade, we'll talk.
Yeah.
All right, Dugout.
If and when. All right. So I pulled out one of this year's, it's really last year's Solstice beers. And I don't know if you can see the label here. And I know it's kind of, it's Senior's Quadruple, and that's Coonan Senior right there on the label. And let's see if we get that a little closer.
Yep.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, yeah, this is it's called Senior's Quadruple. It's 13.4 percent, and it's made with dark candy sugar and fermented with a Belgian yeast strain, and it comes across now. It's got a really dark ruby red, and I think if I flash it around a light, you might see a little bit of daylight come through it. Maybe if I do it with my other hand and catch the light a little better. There, you can see some of the ruby coming. It's really cool. Yeah, really cool color. And the nose has some dark fruits and a lot of malt in there. It's of course with a good bit of head on it. I think there's still some of that little residual pixie dust from the last beer in there that's floating on the top. So otherwise, it's really, really clear. It's kind of low to medium carbonated. Body on it is about a medium, and it's really easy drinking for a 13.4. It's got a nice little bite to it. but you get a little bit of the booziness of it up front, but it goes down smooth, and it's got a lot of a caramel malt to it, as well as some dark fruit. I can remember how proud the Kunin's brothers were when they were getting this one together, and they would bring out pictures of it at our homebrew meetings, and everybody would just get hammered, and it was like, man, how strong is that? And they're like, oh, it's about 13 and a half. And I'm like, oh, well, no wonder, it's going down so easy. And so I've been blessed to have this beer all through the stages of it, and now into bottles. And boy, they really kind of killed it for the Solstice lineup this year. And there's a few others that I've got in the basement that, and here's the kicker. I mean, so I know that those beers aren't cheap, but it's about $35. They average about $35 for a 4-pack of 12-ounce bottles, which, not horrible when it comes to bourbon barrel aged beers. They're not selling the single bottles of it, but man, some of those are just so freaking good. The American Stout and with the marshmallow in it, which I was like, whatever. And I had some at the pub, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'll take a 4-pack of that right now. And then the bourbon barrel aged 4D toffee is probably the best Kunin beer I've ever had, hands down. It's just amazing. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try and pick up another 4-pack and maybe ship some out to you guys for you to try it, because by all rights, it should not still be for sale. I mean, some of the stuff I've had that people have lined up for, and just the buzz around them, things like that, sell out in 15 minutes type of thing. And here's these beers just still sitting there, and they blow all of them away. But
Doug,
yeah.
I can't even believe you said that's like your favorite Kunin beer ever. That means a lot, because I know you know their beers more than any of us do, and I've had like insanely good beers from there. For you to say that is like an unbelievable pledge of quality. I mean, that's got to be just over the top. So,
well, I hope it just holds up. I did have an instance where one of the guys in the brew club was looking for some things to decorate his new bar in his basement with, and I had bunch of these. I have a bunch of really cool old vintage Breweryana stuff, and I was like going to offer that up to him, and he wasn't interested in that. And he ends up with like the Labatt blue light mirrors that, like, okay, they're all yours. He's like, yeah, I'll trade you some beer for them, and I'm like, okay, and over comes like 2012 Bourbon Barrel 4D. And it was just like, I would have taken one bottle of that for all the mirrors I gave him. But no, he brought a bunch of them. And I had like 4 or 5 year vertical of Bourbon Barrel 4D for these mirrors, I'm like, God, you need more? I mean, I'll go buy them, and then you can just give me mirrors,
That's like a top 5 beer for me.
Yeah. But that's the quad. You don't see a lot of quads out. It's just not an easy style to make, and takes a lot of time and effort. And so hats off to these guys for putting that one out.
Amen. And I don't know how long it's going to last, but Steve V and I were talking when we were together in New Year's, and we're really going to try to make either Ypsilanti or Eastern Market happen next year. So I'm leaning towards Eastern Market. I think fall in Michigan is spectacular. Steve's probably never been there, and we're going to get our shit together and go.
Yeah, this was after a lot of beers, and I think we're already at that point. I love you, man. I love you too.
Well, we're still
Let's go to Detroit.
Let's go for a trip. Okay, I'll go.
I know we're going to go. It's a lot easier for you. I have a wife and family to convince that I need to go. You don't. Although my wife and family probably would like to come with me, because even though we love living, we like the climate in Arizona much better than Michigan. Especially my youngest son Aaron really misses Michigan a lot. And, we all have decided we're long overdue for a return visit and visit old friends. So who knows? Maybe it'll be a whole family affair, and we'll figure it all out. But
cool.
Steve V, you and I have to go, man. We have to go, whether it's Ypsilanti or Eastern Market. My track record is much better at Eastern Market, as Doug can attest.
I think at Eastern Market, as unpredictable as the weather is, it's more predictable than Ypsi. I mean, we've been to Ypsi when it's been like 1,000 degrees outside, and then storms and thunderstorms, and just, when it's 100 degrees and 98% humidity, and that is not fun. I mean, that's just not a good time. I mean, you still have fun, but it's one thing if it's cold and rainy, you can get under the shed, or you can always put a few more layers of clothes on, but
or just have an extra barley wine or two.
Yeah, yep, that too.
Well, speaking of barley wines,
I'm going to say, JR, don't forget you may have to plan a trip to Germany next year. So.
Yeah, I've been talking way too much when I drink too much, right? Speaking of barley wine, I have one as my second, so I'm going big or go home. So this is there's a good story behind this beer. It's called The Gathering Storm. It's from Evergreen Brewing in Camp Hill, Pennsylvania. So I'm told through the interwebs and the grapevine that this great brewery, that one year it was the best beer I ever had, was a beer called something about this is that wears the crown or something. It's from Skookum Brewing in Washington. Had a great reputation for making great barrel-aged barley wines. And their brewer left and went to this brewery called Evergreen in Camp Hill. So like all the barley wine is life crowd is now like, oh, I can't wait till he makes barley wines in Pennsylvania for this new brewery he's going to work for. Well, thank you, Michael Palestino, and with an assist from Mike Trush, another dear buddy who lives near Camp Hill. When Michael sent me those Ralphia beers, the first one I had, he sent me one of these. And this guy, I know that Crown beer that I had from Skookum was honestly the year that I got it. It was my beer of the year. It was the best beer I had all year. So I have no idea what to expect here. I've just heard great things about the brewer, but haven't heard any at all feedback on this beer. So let's open it. It's a 12-ounce can. Hold it up for you guys that have video. The Gathering Storm. So I'm going to pour this out. Let me read it before, so I can read it first. It's oh no, I know what it is. I'll open it first because I actually went to their Facebook page and got a description of the beer. So it's a 12-ounce can. I'm thankful for that because the last one was only 12.7 ounce. It was a 375 milliliter bottle. This one has quite a bit more head than the other, but it's also disappearing extremely rapidly, and it's already gone in 5 seconds. But it was like a 1-inch head that just disappeared immediately, and now there's like nothing at all on the top of the beer. And it is, I want to say coal black. It's maybe like 0.2 below, so maybe 9.8 out of 10 in the darkness scale. I'm going to read the description before I even taste it. Because, okay, you've been asked, and now here we go. The Gathering Storm, 14% ABV, a barley wine brewed with English malts and hops and then aged extendedly in bourbon barrels for many months. This mahogany-hued monster is perfect for sipping on or before the storm gathers. Rich notes of oaky bourbon, toffee, raisin, and caramelized sugar. Finally available in our tap room, only on draft and in 4 12-ounce packs to go. So there you have it. So let's dive right in. You guys see it's pretty dark. It's not brown, it's black. So it's not as thick as the Ralphius was, but it's pretty darn close. It's got some sweetness to it. Definitely caramel, toffee, malty. Definitely getting that Maris Otter malt flavor. On the finish, I get vanilla toffee. There's not nearly the dark fruit that there was in the stout that I had. A touch of raisin. It's really, really good, though. Sweet, viscous, not thin. I'd say probably a 9 out of 10, really. There's nothing negative about it. It's very enjoyable. A lot of barley wines will, like, punch you in the mouth, and you're like, you got to be a man to drink it. This is just something I want to sip and make it last. I don't want to chug this down and be done with it just to get a buzz. It's really, really high quality. perfectly balanced. It's not too hoppy. There's hardly any hoppiness in it. It's just mostly sweet. Toffee, raisin, not overly sweet. It's really well balanced and well constructed beer. And I think the one thing I was looking for more of is barrel influence, but it's there, and it's just not. It doesn't overpower anything. It's like there's enough balance to be equal to the other things in it, which is probably what makes this brewer so revered. Because there's not any one thing that overtakes the rest. Everything's just on a level playing field. I actually kind of like that I can taste a malty, taste to it, which is a tribute to a good English barley wine where the Maris Otter malt is a star of the show. And gosh, I mean, there's just a lot of everything good in this. I had no idea what to expect. I actually expected more of a punch in the mouth in this, and it's not that. It's going to hit me in 5 minutes because it's 14%, but it doesn't. It doesn't. A lot of those barley wines, it's going to hit you because when you taste it, it's like, ooh, that's going to crush me. And this is one that's going to creep up on me and sting only because I don't realize what I'm drinking. It's so strong. It's a wonderful beer. So I wish I knew the brewer's name because I've heard great things about this guy. It's the Evergreen Brewing Company, Camp Hill, Pennsylvania. This is the Gathering Storm. I'll be looking for more of their barley wines. I know their brewery's well renowned for that, and a lot of Barley Wine Is Life crowd has been looking forward to what this guy was going to come out with here, and he's lived up to the hype. So maybe if we go back for the parade, Ross, we might have to find one of these and partake.
I do have to start a driving trip to Tampa on Friday morning. So the parade needs to be on Wednesday for me to get to it. If we do it on Thursday, there's no way for me to do it. If it's on Wednesday, I'll be able to make it.
I'll be honest with you. I told everybody if there is a parade, and again, I don't want to jinx, if in fact there is a parade, I was going to say I went to the last parade, but we'll see what happens because I might change my mind, especially if there's one of these in my future. But highly recommended, man. And I'll also say anybody that goes to central Pennsylvania, Evergreen, Mike Trush is another beer buddy. Mike has sent me some of their sours. Their sours are amazing. So I remember when COVID hit, Mike actually sent something out to one of our beer groups and said, I don't want my local brewery to go out of business. And he goes, I will mail anybody anything from this brewery. He sent like a list of what they had. And a bunch of us ordered a bunch of their beer to help them out. And I didn't know what I was going to get. I was just like, it was a beer buddy saying, I don't want my local to go out of business. And it was enough convinced me to send him, hey, give me like $80 for that beer and, I'll give you a label for it. And everything I had was fantastic. And now they hired this guy, the Barley Wine King. That back then it was just, it was all about their sours and some of their, sessionable beers. But Evergreen Brewing, Camp Hill, Pennsylvania, highly recommended. I think that's enough of me rambling. I'll turn it over to Steve V.
Yeah, getting into what you're talking about, how supporting these breweries. We lost a really good brewery this month ago, Mumford Brewery. They're in the Arts District here in downtown, and they had been around for 7.5 years or so, and they just closed up shop. That was really sad. Like I said, they're good. They're really, really good. Great beers there. And then we had some other breweries who were getting close, and luckily things kind of changed, and they were able to stay open and stay afloat. And so I mean it's tough, and so I guess that's my public service announcement. It's like get out there and support your local craft breweries, because we're the ones who support them, and without us and without everyone going out there and drinking there, we can't go out and enjoy it if we're not going out there and supporting them. So just for that. So since we're in the I might as well just stay with our Long Beach. So I got another selection in my fridge from the Long Beach Beer Lab, and this is it's called their Candy Craft. It's got a picture there for everybody to see. So it's a sour IPA with blueberries, coconut, and vanilla, and it's a 6.8 ABV. Excuse me. So look at that pour. It's like purple. It's just smell like one of your barley rinds. A lot of fruit smell coming from it. Poured like a nice, decent head. It's very, very purple and dark. You can't even see through it. Kind of like the Joker's coat, if I were to describe it on anything. Oh wow, that is it's not sour. It says it's a sour IPA, but it's not sour at all. It's very sweet. It's very smooth. The coconut and vanilla are. This is like dessert. This isn't. It's kind of surprising that they call it an IPA because this is very, very, very sweet. Very. This is like.
You just call it a fruit salad.
The blueberry is very subtle. It's very subtle, but the coconut and the vanilla are very, very strong on it, and it's very tasty. It's not sour at all. I don't get any tartness to it. It's very, but it's not like overbearing sweet. It's not
kind of like a smoothie from like.
I guess they use a lactose on it. To get that.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Is that a lactose beer?
I'm looking at it.
That lactose can tend to cut the amount of sour that the sour kickback you get on it.
Yeah, it's very, very surprising that they would say it's a sour just because of. But I mean, like I says, you do have some of those. Especially during the summer, they'll put out the pineapple and vanilla and and they have these lactose added to it to smooth it out and feels like you're drinking like a Mai Tai or something like that. And I guess this is very similar. That's why I would say that it does have the lactose in it. But very great tasting. Like I said, very enjoyable. It's almost like one of these. Drinks that you get at the like the blended drinks that they have with the fruit ones and the berry blast fruit drinks that you get in your produce section and that's been blended and has all these different fruits and maybe a vegetable in there just to make it seem like it's healthy, but very great taste great, like I said, the coconut and the vanilla are just great in it. They could have used maybe another fruit, maybe. I mean, if I'm going to criticize it, or because the blueberry it's not a very pronounced fruit. It usually hides a lot behind some of these other stuff, but the coconut and vanilla does make it very enjoyable. It was a very nice day today here in LA. We actually were in like the upper 70s today, and what a way to top off a nice day with one of these beers from Long Beach Beer Lab.
Awesome, man.
Nice.
Well, yeah, not sour. Good stuff, man. I'd like to turn it over to Doug next. I wanted to, I think someone else has already congratulated on some hardware that he won for his home brewing and continues to crank out great quality home brews. And Steve V, when you and I eventually make it to Michigan, you'll get to taste some of those. They're truly amazing. If I hit the lottery, I'll be hiring Doug to be my head brewer, and we'll never work another day in our life other than brewing beer. But until that time,
kick out some recipes and let everybody else do it.
That might even be better, right? That's why they have Cellarman, right?
Exactly.
Here, you do this, but here's the recipe.
Thank you for visiting ChristopherMedia.net.
Progressive presents Adjusting to the Suburbs. You just bought a home in the suburbs, but no one told you about all the birds, specifically this one, who seems to be calling out Roy. Roy. But who exactly is Roy? And why doesn't he ever respond? Maybe Roy is just bird speak for save with Progressive by bundling your home and auto. I guess until Roy answers, we'll never know. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company coverage provided and serviced by affiliates and third-party insurers. With Progressive's Name Your Price tool, you can find options that fit your budget, because giving you options is the right thing to do.
Oh yeah, like when I hold the door for someone. Sure, it may be weird if I don't time it right, and they're a little too far away, and now they're running, and we're both asking ourselves, is it worth it to run, instead of just, letting them open their own door?
But still, it's the right thing to do. So get options based on your needs with Progressive's Name Your Price tool. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and third-party insurers. Comparison rates not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
This week on RVER, sponsored by Progressive Insurance.
Hey, Chief, we got a damaged RV on its way to the OR.
Well, that sounds like a job for the new head of RV surgery.
Wait, are you promoting me?
Congrats, Martinez.
Doctor, that RV's flatlining.
Well, that sounds like a job for the new head of nursing.
So you're just promoting everyone now?
Yeah, kind of looks that way, doesn't it?
When your RV really needs saving, Progressive has you covered. See if you could save with a leader in RV insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Coverage subject to policy terms.
ChristopherMedia.net.
But I'd like to turn it over to you, Doug, and just tell us what's going on with your homebrew, activity lately.
Well, the latest was the Midwinter Homebrew Competition, which is in Milwaukee, and I believe that is maybe the largest and, in my opinion, the most prestigious of the regional homebrew competitions in the Midwest. I don't know that there's any that hold more weight, and then also attract a higher quality judge. Like every beer at some point that's been in a medal has been judged by somebody who's pretty close, if not a master judge. So that being said, I entered some beers last year and basically got told try again, even though they were good and the scores were good. It was just the competition is high and it's tough. I entered 3 beers. One made the cut. The other 2 they were good beers. They just had issues and judging issues, BJCP issues. And, you got to take that for what it's worth. If it's a good beer to you, it doesn't matter. But, as far as competitions go, you got to hit it. You got to cross all the T's and dot all the I's. I've been playing around with New Zealand hops for quite a few years, and I always thought, a little bit ahead of the curve on a lot of people. A lot of people are just hearing about them or have just started with them. So I've been working with them for quite a long time. And up until recently, I never really got that. I was just, for a time I sold all kinds of stuff. I sold whiskey and spirits and beer and wine. And there was a wine from New Zealand called a Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc, and it just had this incredible grapefruit flavor that was very akin to West Coast hops, but had more of a juicy aspect to it. And I thought, I know that flavor's in there in those hops, and anyways, long story short, I nailed that flavor with the previous beer I had brewed from New Zealand. But it's fun to not sit still with brewing. I always like to tinker and try new things out. And there is some people call this the next brewed IPA, but I don't know if you guys have heard of the thiolized IPAs yet. And basically, the thiolized yeasts take out the thiol compound in the hops and pronounce it almost to an obscene amount. So the aromas and the flavors just jump out at you. So my first beer making a thiolized yeast, and I went with the New Zealand profile with it, and I took it out of the fermenter, and I remember I'll leave the story alone. Anyways.
Oh no, I'm liking that story.
We had a Christmas episode once where everybody came to the house and Miller had brought this beer that tasted phenomenal, but it just smelled like gym shoes, like just the worst gym shoes you ever had in your life. You remember that, JR? So I pulled this beer out. I pull this beer out of the fermenter, and that's it. That's that smell, and I'm like, oh my God, what happened here? And
I think it was more like vulcanized rubber.
Yeah, it was bad. But
burning vulcanized rubber.
I pulled it out of the fermenter, and then I remember one other time I had a beer that I had done that with, and it was a Hefeweizen that I had brewed with John Golden that smelled really, really bad. And I just kind of asked around a little bit, and somebody said, well, just let it rest. And so I did that. I put it in the cellar, and I let it rest for about a week. And I thought, well, I'm going to jump on this, and I threw in a few carbonation drops into it to kind of get it started with the carbonation in the keg. Yeah, sure enough, the smell went away. Got the beer into the carb. Everything was great. Decided to enter this stuff, and it came out fantastic. Decided to enter this in a couple competitions. Well, when I went to bottle, I have a hell of a time. This stuff it acted like it was overcarbonated, even though it wasn't. I just couldn't get it to sit in the bottle. So all my bottles were underfilled, which is sort of a no-no for competitions. It just looks bad. But hey, made it a competition, and that's the one that scored a silver medal in that competition. And they had grouped all the IPAs together. So that beer was pitted against hazy IPAs as well as American IPAs. And so that in itself really just, that one made me proud. And I'm rebrewing it this weekend because it's going to the national competition, and the nationals are coming up here soon enough. I've got several beers that I made I got one more judging for that beer. It's entered one more time in Kansas City, the Kansas City Beermeisters 40th anniversary homebrew competition. And I think that it's already been judged, but I think the awards come out a little later in February, probably mid to late February. So we'll see where that one ends up in that one. But I'm rebrewing it for nationals. I went a little bit out of my comfort zone, and Ross, that's why I was really happy to see you bring those Czech Pilsners, because I've taken advantage of the root cellar. I have a true root cellar in my basement that sits at about 50 degrees this time of year, very steady 50 degrees, and it's perfect temperature for brewing lagers. And I've taken advantage of that. I started last year. I made my first one. I just did one. So this year I've got a Czech Pilsner that I finished. I bottled that up last night. I just pulled a Helles export that I brewed, and that's the first Helles I brewed. But man, did that come out killer! It is so clear, and I just pulled it out of the fermenter last night. Put it onto the keg to let it cold crash, and that's going into nationals. There's another competition ahead of that one that had some weird styles attached to it. So that's why I brewed the Helles. I brewed the Czech Pilsner just because I like Czech Pilsner, And then I also brewed a Weizenbock, which came out a little bit shy of 8%. The mash on that beer took 3.5 hours, if you can imagine, just the mash. It was a step mash, and it was just really involved. Normally, I would not want to do that. But you know what? I got started with it, and by the time I figured out that I'm in for the long haul, and I already had the money into the ingredients, I'm like, I got to do it. That beer came out really, really good. It still needs a little bit of aging. It comes out like a wheat wine, but it has that Hefeweizen profiles or those banana esters. I don't know if you guys have had many Weizenbocks, but I don't know that I've had. I know I've had a couple, but not a whole lot of them. And it was just kind of a cool thing to get out of my comfort zone and brew that beer as well as the Helles. I went to the Slam Dunk, which is a I've crafted a Newcastle Brown Ale clone over the years and made tweaks and decided that.
I'm sure it's better than the Newcastle Brown Ale that's on the market right now.
Well, we're talking about that. Yes, it is. It really is. You could A/B it, and yeah, it's brewed to the original recipe, not this caramel color one. Heineken caramel coloring is all it is.
I just want to say, and I'm going to need your help with this, Doug, but I am 100% dedicated to writing a book about all the beers that Big Beer has ruined over the years. Bass Ale, the oldest trademark in the United Kingdom, now brewed in Baldwinsville, Newark. Rolling Rock, now brewed in Newark, New Jersey, instead of the glass-lined tanks of Old Latrobe. But that's still on the label, but there's a small disclaimer in front of it. Beck's Beer, I actually received, I think, a $12 check for a 12-pack because they got, class action suit was successful, ruled against the evil empire. They had to pay... I got a $12 check because they misrepresented Beck's Beer as the Becks in Germany that we knew and loved from Bremen, Germany when we grew up, Doug. I really feel I want to write a book about all these brands that got ruined by the beer.
Don't limit it to just beer because cider had the same thing, right? So back when I first had Strongbow, way back before Heineken bought them, it was like a dry, semi-dry cider, and they changed the recipe completely when it was a Heineken. I don't know who bought them. Somebody bought them.
Great, I have an assistant author now.
and so that was what turned me on to ciders because I was so used to American, just overly sweet ciders. I really didn't know that dry and semi-sweets were a thing, right? Because where I was, you couldn't really get anything. But when I worked for Deutsche Bank back in like 2009, 2011 timeframe in there, and they used to send me to London, and I could I'll try that cider, and it was a nice dry cider. And that's when I realized I like dry ciders, I like dry meads, and then they got bought out, and then they changed. It became woodchuck. I mean, literally, it became a sweet cider, and I was like, how can you do that to that?
There's a lot of history there, and there's a lot of people that probably between me, you, Doug, and Steve, and other beer nuts know. I am truly committed to writing a book, on brands that have come and gone at the expense of Big Beer. So anybody listening, hit us up on Instagram. I'd love to hear from you and use your feedback because there's a lot of great brands that are completely destroyed, and I don't believe the big beer companies bought them to make them better. I think they bought them just to make them go away. It's one more spot on the shelf that we can sneer away. But
I suppose, that some people have that thought process that says if that beer doesn't exist, they'll just buy ours. And that's where craft beer stepped in and said, hold my beer, And that's why Big Beer just is like, and they still try that kind of strong arm BS, but and then they also got the if you can't beat them, join them. But at the same token, they'll take a perfectly good brewery and say, we're gonna leave our hands off of it until it comes time to do cost cutting measures, and you see that with Founders now. You see, I start to see it creep in with Bell's, unfortunately. It just it saddens me to see that.
That leads me just to ask everybody, please look for that independent seal on your beer cans. I mean, because if it's not independent, it's owned by one of the big. I mean, you go to I remember going to a Diamondbacks baseball game and seeing some. Look at this. I forget the name of it. It was Hop something, and I'm like, yeah, that's like one. But they fooled me. It was another Miller Coors brand. I can't remember what it was, Hop something or other. But the bottom line is, before our very eyes, craft beer brands that exist are becoming, bought up and basically faked as craft beer options for people that don't know any better. Yeah, we're purists and we know the craft beer business and the brands, but there are a lot of people that don't. And when you go to these big ballparks, you're like, oh, look, that's a local craft. No, it isn't. Owned by the big beer, and the other thing we can do is get venues like that to say, hey, we're going to give a slice of the pie to our local peeps, So that's just where we can get better at what we're doing. But
I see that quite a bit around in Detroit. There are some true craft beers in the venues. As some of the what were once true craft brewers have sold out, you see that kind of slipping away a little bit, but you still see it. So, hats off. I love going to Ford Field, for example, and finding the craft beer section over there, and it's a real deal. You get in there and you get some good stuff, and I think Comerica Park's the same way. And
I have to hand it to Michigan, because I can remember when I lived there. Whenever I went to a Tigers game, I got tickets in the right field corner, because there's the Michigan craft beer bar right there.
Yep.
And you could go in, and it was all local craft, no big beer, none. And it was actually, they do it right. But you know what? That doesn't exist here in Arizona, or probably in California, probably in most parts of the country. But I will give it hats off to Michigan for that one. And that's where I sat, because I knew that's where the good beer was.
For audio purposes, people can't see. JR took his hat off.
Yeah.
You don't want to see it. Although I still have a lot of hair, it's just all gray. But that changes. The day I became a dad, my hair turned gray. So it's actually getting darker with this part.
Yeah, Ross, Steve. All the chrome domes here.
That's right. I still got mine, guys.
One time I was in Ireland, and a lot of people don't know I'm a pretty tall guy. I'm over 6'5", and I was in Ireland, and this old timer came up and he said, "Lad, you grow right through your hair." Oh man, I about spit out my drink. It was the funniest damn thing.
I can't say I had ever a dull moment in Ireland.
Do we want to transition into any local news?
Yeah. Let's do it, and then we're getting pretty close to going south here. So
yeah. So what I wanted, one thing I wanted to bring up was we lost a brewery this year. So one of our locals that had a fair amount of fame associated with it, Barrel Culture, closed at the end of December. And they were known,
What?
Yeah, they were known mostly for their fruited sours, and they closed up shop officially December 31st.
That's a shame, because they were great. I can understand if you made like subpar beer and it just didn't work out.
Well,
these guys were like really good.
They had some issues with a brewer who moved on, 3 or 4 years ago, and they never quite recovered financially from some shenanigans. So they couldn't quite get out of the hole that got dug.
That's very unfortunate, man. That was a great. You told me a lot about them, and I had a couple of their things, and everybody I talked to spoke very highly.
So that in our area, that was
one thing to lose a brewery because they just their beer average and they just don't quite cut it, because it happens. But to lose a brewery that makes probably in the 10th top percentile of quality, which I believe that hurts.
Yeah, they closed up shop. We had a final party there, which I was able to attend, and it was really awesome. We had a huge share, as well as sharing some of their final stock, and it was really good. A lot of there was some sadness, no bitterness, and we just had a nice happy closing party. They managed to sell most of their equipment to other local brewers, so there was some nice transition there, right? Some people who needed some of their equipment got it, and that was nice. The other thing that's been happening around here is we've been getting there's a lot of Asheville spots that are opening tap rooms in our area. So most recently was Dissolver, for instance, and so we're getting it. That's more and more a thing where the Asheville breweries are all popping up a tap room somewhere in the Triangle, whether it's Raleigh or Durham or somewhere in the Triangle. And even Burial opened a second tap room. So Burial had one in Raleigh, and actually it's not in this area, but they opened another one in Charlotte. And so they're really branching out to have their stuff open up, and it's nice to see. So the ones that are still around are thriving, opening up spots for us so that we don't have to make the trek to Asheville all the time. For their really good stuff. Obviously, we get a fair amount of good distribution, but there's some stuff that's only going to be in a tap room, of the brewer that's not going to be available in a normal, normal bottle shop or whatever. So we've had some good stuff. We've had some good times with that. What else was I going to say? I don't know. Philly, you got to go to Monk's, of course. The last time I was at Monk's, we had 3 Russian River taps and 3 Hill Farmstead taps. So that kind of limited our choices to 6 beers at that point. So we all the other taps kind of went by the wayside as we stared at the 3 Russian River taps and 3 Hill Farmstead taps. So Monk's is a gotta visit if you're in Philly, bringing this back to a Philly theme. So yeah, if you haven't been there, you gotta go. So yeah.
Well, to Steve B's credit, Russian River is right in his, not in his backyard, but in his home state. And
it's a bit of a haul,
like
right?
When I got to go to his, what was it, Ramirez's? Ramirez has had, I said, Steve, any chance they have any Pliny? He goes, there's like one window at the end. Let's check it. There might be something. I think there were 6 bottles, and I think we bought 3. I didn't want to be that guy that just, bought them out. It was cool. We had like one at the party with Chris, another one in the hotel room after the Rose Bowl, and I brought one home and shared it with some friends in Arizona. So,
well, I know JR was fighting his demons of like, no, I'm going to take them all. I don't care about everybody else. I'm just going to...
I left one.
I don't care.
I did the right thing.
Leave one.
I did the right thing. I should have taken them all, but...
Yeah, if they put them out there, that's what they're for. You got to go with
them. Okay. Well,
you never know. They might have some more back in a box.
I like to think somebody that would cherish those as much as I did found the last 3 after me.
I will say when I visited Dogfish Head a month and a half ago, and they had in the stash, they had brought out some more 2014 Raisin Dextras, which I hadn't seen in quite a while. And yeah, they were $15 each off the shelf there. But okay, I'll take 6 of the 7 that are there.
Yeah, you know what? It's time to speak up about that price thing, because I think we've reached an era where it's quality over quantity. I mean, with our circle of craft beer lovers, probably. Maybe not with people that drink Natural Light and Busch, because they're not drinking beer for the taste, but we are. And I have no problem paying $15 a bottle or a can for something good, because beer costs a lot. I know this now because I'm in the business, and you got to buy a barrel, you got to store it for a year, you got to make sure you turn it around, you got to, it's not just that beer should be half that price. No one's ever said that, because people are, as long as the beer's good, people are willing to pay for it. It's and none of us are getting any younger. Now you drink a beer and you're like, I'd rather have 2 beers like I had tonight than like a 12-pack of something crappy, because I'm on my 2nd beer and I'm,
Along the price discussion, so, my favorite North Carolina brewery is Southern Pines by far, Drunken Vigils and other stouts that they make. And so this year, JR had some Drunken Vigils at our last tailgate.
Oh, gosh. Favorite North Carolina beer ever.
But, so in previous years, it had been a 4-pack of 16-ounce cans. Grapevine is they had been losing money on that for a long time. So, like last year, a 4-pack of 16-ounce cans, I think was, I don't remember, it was 27 or 28 bucks. But they were still kind of losing money on it at that price point.
That can't be possible.
No, I don't know. It is what it is. This year,
they're probably breaking even.
Yeah. Well, this year they released a waxed bottle, as you know, JR. So the price per volume effectively tripled this year, right? They still sold out of it though. Like wherever it's been on the shelf, it's gone. And so I went down for the release day, and I bought a couple cases. And yeah, it hurt to buy 2 cases and have bottles and have it come to $500. But it's still what it is. It's still a really good beer, and it flew off the shelves everywhere. You can't get it; it's gone. Right?
Well, pretty much what it is they realize what they had, and it is worthy of every dime they're charging right now.
Now I think it's top 30 on Beer Advocate. So
it's the best North Carolina beer I've ever had, and honestly, I don't care whether you put it. A lot of our beers are in 16-ounce cans. Our best beers. Doesn't matter the vessel, but there's a point in time where it's more profitable to put a certain serving size, and that was probably there for those guys. And Ross, you won't deny, I mean, out of everything you've ever given me over all these years, the Drunken Vigils is my number one North Carolina beer. There's not even one beer ever made in the state of North Carolina that I would rather have than that.
The Beaver comes close, Doug.
When you brought... What's that?
Well, and I'm gonna throw in a vote for that barrel-aged sexual chocolate.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a good one, but it's not this. But
I get it.
I when he brought it to the tailgate, I'm like, "What's this?" And he's like, "It's Drunken Vigils." I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "But yeah." I mean, I think the brewery did a great job figuring out that we got to make this a profitable thing. They deserve to make money on one of the best beers in your state and arguably in the country. So hats off to them for recognizing that we can do better than putting it in 16-ounce cans. And
it just reduces the frequency how often I can have some. Two cases of 4-packs of 16-ounce cans lasts a lot longer than...
That's a lot, though.
That's
a lot when they're those big... the big beers, and I think of course I mentioned the stuff around Kunin and the prices there, and like my first order was, I first put in my order and it was $500 and something, and I'm like, oh man, no, we got to scale this back. I'm not dumping $500 right at Christmas time on beers, like that's not going to happen. I had to travel to Chicago. I still had to travel to Chicago and buy up my lot there too, so I had to scale that back and put a second order in. And
maybe I should talk to Jamie about the timing of their releases, because they did it early January this year. Like their Vigils release is early January most times. They may have one or two a year, but the main one is always in early January, and like right after Christmas might not be the best time, to your point.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, you got to give people a little chance to recover from, having the holidays and spending a little extra dollars, and especially if you have to travel and you have to go visit family, and then, that becomes, it just, you get into a mindset of like, well, it's Christmas and, I'm going to be cheap with other things because I have to buy these beers. I mean, that's, come on. Get real. It's like you're just going to dig a little deeper and pull it out. But yeah, I had to scale that order back. So
keeping it on Southern Pines for just a second. I hope I'm not trying to waste too much time here, but they have a blonde ale called Duck Hook. It's one of their staple beers. You can get it year round. It's a nice blonde ale. It's not something I normally drink, but I will have it as a starter if I go make that. It's in about an hour to Southern Pines for me, so when I drive down there, I might have it as a starter. But they released a variant of it this year, or they're getting ready to release a variant of it this year. So the beer is called Duck Hook. And so Jamie came up with a name for it called Don't Go Chasing Waterfowl. So if you're a TLC fan or you have any recognition of the song, it's pretty funny, but
it'd be a good parody for the song too.
So I'm gonna wait and see what they do with that label, just in case. But we'll see. They have interesting artwork a lot of the time, as anybody who's seen their labels knows. So, but yeah, Don't Go Chasing Waterfowl is an awesome name for a beer.
I love it. Yeah. So I think JR had left the room. I was going to bring up a point on, but I'll wait for him to get back here. I think he'll appreciate this. Steve, you got any local craft beer news there?
Yeah, actually I do. So there's a brewery up in our San Fernando Valley area, the Valley, Salador Ales. They've been around. They do a lot of fermented beer. Very good stuff. Their owners decided, hey, you know what, we're done. But luckily, they had a great employee, a guy that I knew he used to do a lot of beer and cheese pairings. And basically, he's taking over all their recipes and stuff. And he's going to be brewing out of Smog City. I know JR knows about Smog City. And so he's going to be brewing out of there for a while. But he has goals of moving it and expanding to a kind of more of a pub where he's going to be serving some food and stuff. So I wish them the best of luck. And anyone out here on the West Coast, make sure you get down to Smog City and get Smog City's great beer, as well as and then picks up some Salador Ales stuff from them.
Yeah, so Steve, I have to say, thank you very much for procuring those Smog City beers for me. I still have not cracked one, and I'm kind of ashamed of that. But I just got them like a month ago. So
well, they've been sitting in my kitchen for a while, so they should be ready to go.
Yeah, they're ready.
So,
all right, everybody. Well,
JR, I meant to ask you how the Kunins that got shipped are holding up, or if you've had a few of them.
I've only had one. I think I've only had one. I one night I just came back and I'm like, I got to have one. I mean, they're phenomenal, as you know, but they're even better. Like if I had one right now, but fortunately, I opened to something else. I almost feel bad about that because those Kunin beer. I guess you get to a point where when I moved here, I still had kind of like a case of stash, but they're kind of getting old and need to be drank. And then you got the new ones, they're all good. And I don't have a lot of occasions where there's other people to share with. And when I pop a beer of that statue, I almost feel like I'm being selfish if I drink it all myself.
Dude, I got over that guilt about.
Yeah, that guilt's long gone, man. Long gone. Hence,
I realized I'm not going to go. I am not going to go to as many shares as I think I'm going to go to. I'm not going to be able to make it. There's just not as many as there used to be. Just, COVID screwed things up and everything else. And it's like the amount of opportunities I have to share beer is like 1/3 of what it used to be.
Right.
I'm just drinking what I got. Like,
you know what? I think what you're trying to say is sometimes you just got to say, what the fuck?
Fuck it. It's I'm drinking it. Yeah.
Right.
So a little bit, and JR, I waited for you to get back.
You got them, smoke them, right?
And I know that this isn't super local, although a little bit of local news. I think there's a place here or there that's closed up. I think Brooks is about done. Not a very exciting place, anyways, but. At least they were local and they did do some good things, and I think they're about done. And there's some new ones opening in Detroit. I believe 3 new breweries in the next 2 to 3 months are opening in Detroit proper. So that's kind of exciting. But and this is my local west side of Michigan news. I was in Western Michigan last week. And I had shared the thing about Greg picking up the beers that I wasn't going to be there for. Wax Wings is just killing it. I had a release, and Greg shared the release with me, and it wasn't but 5 minutes online, and it was sold out. A little bit of a bummer. I didn't get one, but same thing. I didn't have to pay $35 for a bottle of beer. I guess that's, you put that into your head to say, like, well, I don't want that beer anyways, Well, but really I did, and I would have paid the money for it. But
great thing.
I was over in Hudsonville, and Hudsonville is not a very big place, just sort of stuck between Grand Rapids and Holland, Michigan. But there's 2 breweries in the town. One's Pike 51, which in my opinion is the most underrated brewery on the west side of Michigan. And what's great about this brewery is the clientele, because they make their own wine too. It's a winery and a brewery, and then they do these wine slushies. So it's about probably 4-to-1 women to men. And it's a fun place, and people just, these ladies start drinking all these slushies, and it just starts to turn into a really fun place. But they do fantastic IPAs. They have a bourbon barrel-aged beer called Sensual Bean that is extremely underrated. They're putting it in 12-ounce bottles now, so I was able to get in there, pick up a couple 12-ounce bottles. That's what I shared with Greg Schmidt for going on the beer run to Transit. But then also right around the corner is White Flame, and they just had their 10th anniversary and released another batch of Black Flame. And they're putting that in 8-ounce cans. They're these little punty type of cans that it's weird to see beers in 8-ounce, especially bourbon barrel aged, but it's drinking really good. But you know what? The issue with doing that is, like, they're not going to age well in a cellar. Those cans are not going to age well. So they had the bottles with wax.
Ounces of beer anyway. Just drink it up.
Just drink it up. That's it. I mean, I'm not cellaring that stuff anymore anyways. I still had a couple years left. I think I drank a 16 and a 17 just to create some space, because I could start bottling all these home brews and stuff like that, and I don't want everything piled on top of each other so bad that I can't find anything. And anyways, that's sort of my local brew news. But JR, I thought you'd appreciate the Pike 51 and the White Flame story.
No question, for sure. Those are always. I love the Sensual Bean, and I'm really happy that they're making it in a smaller format. I'll be sure to get some of those. But Stevie, we got to make it happen next fall, Eastern Market. Ross, you should come up too, man.
White Flame's kind of a cool place. I mean,
when is that?
White Flame is the epitome of an old man dive bar, but it's a brew pub. And
I was more talking about coming up for the Eastern Market Beer Festival.
JR doesn't seem interested in your Cougar hangout.
Yeah, my Cougar hangout and the Old Man Dive Bar, the Old Man Dive Bar brew pub. Because I mean, I think that's the only one in the country. Because how many brew pubs are like an Old Man Dive Bar? None.
That's okay, Doug. I'll go with you.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen. Any final chance to say anything? Otherwise, let's head to Mexico City.
All right.
If there are no further ados, I can't think of anything. I'd rather say so, as they say in old Mexico City. A-M-F.
Thank you for visiting ChristopherMedia.net.